Charlie, one of the interesting trends we've been witnessing, and I've seen about 13 of these deals being done recently, are what's called acquisition hires, where these companies are actually paying individuals $100 million pay packages. I've seen some that go up to $300 million over a couple of years. Describe to our viewers what this actually is. I mean, I feel like we're in the NBA sports arena.
Yeah, so there's really two key things that are going on here. The first is Meta's going out and poaching key employees at other companies. So OpenAI has been the most notable one. They've pulled some of the most important researchers. And again, like you said, giving reportedly $100 million pay packages to them, which is just incredible. I think they poached another one this morning. I was seeing reports of, and so that's just a spending decision that Mark Zuckerberg and the Meta team is making of, hey, this is so urgent. We're going to spend 60, 70, 80 billion in CapEx this year. We might as well go spend another $1 billion and bring in the best talent to help us deploy the rest of that money as effectively as possible. They are going all in on this. And then the other piece is not just hiring specific employees, they're actually bringing in entire teams. But instead of going out and making an acquisition of an entire business, which is going to go through regulatory scrutiny, it could get denied, it's going to take a long time, they're going and taking a 49% stake in something like a Scale AI. And with that, they're bringing on the entire C-suite, huge chunks of the organization, while sort of bypassing the regulatory scrutiny that would typically come with that. So you can ask questions of, hey, well, what happens to these companies? Scale is reportedly going to continue to operate. They have a new team, but really creative hiring or creative strategies there by the Meta team, and something that other companies have taken note of and are doing within the Mag 7 right now.
Yeah, it's an incredible trend. I mean, $100 million pay packages is, having come from the Wall Street world, that doesn't happen there. Well, I mean, I suppose if you're at one of the hedge funds and you're really driving the money, you can do really well. But actually, they are hiring and paying up some big numbers. That's for sure. But it's an interesting trend that is taking place. And to your point, it's one way to kind of leapfrog the approval process, the regulatory approval process, which we know has been so difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an advantage that the Mag 7 companies have. I mean, as great as OpenAI is doing, they're not a $2-3 trillion company like a Meta is or a Google. It's hard for them to go out and pay $1 billion for employees. They're not going to do that. So I'm sure they're doing their best to offer competitive packages. I'm sure they're raising money and trying to retain these key employees. But I think it just shows you how difficult it is to build these models, that it felt like Meta was falling behind a little bit. They had their Llama model, which was delayed in terms of some of its launches. And we track these third-party sites that sort of review. Mark Zuckerberg decided that was not going to happen. We have the money. Let's just do it. Let's make this investment. And Meta continues to rise. So people obviously responding well to the strategy, despite in the past people not loving his huge distributions of cash.
And let's talk about some of the implications of AI and who gets displaced. There's a lot of concern out there that some of the software companies, software as a service, get displaced because companies will be able to use AI to internally generate their own software programs, and therefore they don't have to continue to buy software and upgrade legacy programs that they might have internally. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, we went through this period of software is dead, and there continues to be a contingent of people who do believe that these legacy enterprise software providers aren't going to be able to compete. They're too expensive. They're too hard to use. That being said, you look at an OpenAI who's leading this charge, and they use Workday and they use Salesforce and ServiceNow. So they still understand the value that some of these incumbent application software providers have. I think one of the reasons that there isn't more enthusiasm around them is the deployment of this AI is moving more slowly than we would have liked or hoped. And I think there's now an understanding that in order to deploy this across an organization, it's going to take a number of years to manage that. You have to get your data ducks in a row, and you have to get all these vendors approved from a security perspective. And there's a lot. You can't just go in and tell AI to do someone's job. You have to tell it exactly what to do, what that workflow looks like. It's a lot of refining. It's a lot of training. So we're using Copilots and ChatGPTs, but we're not necessarily seeing the same tailwinds for the application software providers yet. At the same time, I think that sentiment of software is dead has cooled just a little bit.
But do you think it's a glacial move to the downside for some of these software companies?
Definitely more risk than we've seen. I mean, in Adobe, for example, one of the most shorted stocks in TMT, it's an unprecedented risk that they now face, something they couldn't have anticipated a few years ago, but something that they're all working very hard to overcome.
Okay, we'll take a quick break.